are live. Thank you very much for coming. So I'm Arun Sharma and I'm founder at Submastery. So we will be taking all of you today on this wonderful journey for next 1 hour. If you are able to hear my voice, please confirm me in the chat. अगर आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है एक बार मुझे confirm कर दीजिए फटाफट chat में. Yeah, good afternoon everyone. Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Deepak, Deepti. Yes, I would like you please write where are you attending this session from. एक बार thank you very much, Jashankar. Thanks, Saurabh. Thanks, Sachin. So एक बार if you can write your department and location. Yeah, if you can please write the department and location where are you attending this session from. एक बार आप chat में अपना department और एक बार location लिख दीजिए so that I get to know that. Okay, yeah. So please write your department and location in the chat. Where are you attending this class from? Yes, department or location. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I can see we have members Parveen, Pune, Deepak, Pune, Saurabh, Noida, Deepti from HR, Pune, Sudeep from Rewari, from Parveen from QA, Pune, Sachin is from Noida. Okay, we have Vejashvi from HR department, Kankroli, we have Durgesh, we have Saurabh, welcome, Missy Abandi, welcome man. भावना फ्रॉम वडोदरा. अपना डिपार्टमेंट और एक बार अपना लोकेशन लिख दीजिए आप कहाँ से अटेंड कर रहे हैं. यस, ग्रेट. सूरज, यस वेलकम सूरज. सूरज इज फ्रॉम पंतनगर फ्रॉम HRD. So great, we have mix of participants from human resource. Saurabh, welcome from HRD. Saurabh from Mitra. So we have mix of members from HR, human resource, and MR, system, EHS professional, quality professional. I can understand because this session will be beneficial for everyone. Of course, as you know very well that we have started this new initiative for last few months. Every week we do this session wherein we focus one session on human resource so that we can help them, upskill them, and also like we have one like and the division which is basically helping quality and shop floor professionals to upskill them through our ultimate membership. So we have basically two division. एक division है हमारा ultimate membership in which we are helping the quality and shop floor professionals, manufacturing professionals to upskill them. And the other division is we have recently launched is HR education, which is basically helping human resource professionals to upskill. Okay, great. So thank you very much. So welcome you all. Yeah, thanks everyone. Great. So what exactly we are going to cover today? आज हम क्या cover करने वाले हैं? So this will be an like close to 1 hour session in which we'll be covering like how we can like audit the HR and what are the requirements of human resource when it comes to EHS standard or environment, health and safety system. So we'll be covering like what are the mandatory clause requirement, and we'll also look at the audit check sheet and some of the like key formats and explanation, and we'll also like take your Q&A. To give you a context, like I have like 2 decades of experience. मेरा 20 साल का अनुभव है, and I worked with different companies, basically automotive and manufacturing companies, and I was MR, management representative in my previous job. And it's been like more than 11 years. I'm full-time into training and consulting. And I also got opportunity to implement QMS, IATF, 14001, 45001 in 100+6 companies. So 106 companies का मेरा अनुभव है implement करने का. So whatever I will tell will be from my experience, and I'm very much sure that it will help you. At the end of this program, we'll also share the notes in terms of PDF, and I will also share one check sheet with you, those who stay with us till end, right? Okay, so I need just one promise from you that you will give me 1 hour undivided attention. What is that you will get at the end? You will get like the notes, right? And I'll also share the one check sheet with you for the EHS audit with respect to HR department. And we'll also like coming Monday, we'll also share like certificate with you. Of course, like you have to give small exam, and also like you have to we'll give you the access of the similar recordings, like this recording access we'll also give you, and we'll also update this recording in the YouTube as well, right? YouTube में भी इसको upload करेंगे. And yeah, so this is what, and of course, like if you like the session, please also do take the screenshot as you feel comfortable, and also share this in social media and tag us in LinkedIn as well, right? Okay, so I just need one small promise from you that you will give me undivided attention for next 1 hour. If you promise that you will give me undivided attention, just write 100% in the comment. एक बार 100% लिख दीजिए. If you promise that you will give me 100% undivided attention, because I know in the digital world, it's easy. Distraction is easy. Distraction आसान है. So I just need one commitment from you that you will give me undivided 1 hour of your time, and I promise that you will definitely learn something new today, right? Yeah, okay, good. Prabhu Gunda, 200%. Thank you very much. Deepthi, 100%. Sagar, 100%. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Great. So in between, like, and at the end also, I will give the opportunity. I'll give opportunity where you will be able to ask me question. So specifically, like, we'll be focusing on human resource. Why? Because we have invited HR professional as well. Yeah, thanks Suraj, thanks Sagar. तो आज हम HR का ही बात करेंगे और specifically I will focus on the human resource department, and of course, like, we do have program for all other departments, especially QA, production professional, and that's other division, right? And of course, like, this program will be beneficial if you want to become an internal auditor, if you want to audit, if you are from human HR professional, if you are a human resource professional, then also this will be beneficial for you. Thank you very much for your commitment, and let's start and let's go ahead with the program. So what I'll do, like, in between, I will give you opportunity where you will be able to ask me question. At the end also, I will take the questions, right? Okay, great. So let's talk about, like, this particular beautiful clause, which we say is the ISO. So what do you mean by ISO? ISO basically is a international ad hoc organization, right? It's basically a not-for-profit organization, right? And what does ISO means? So when we write International Organization for Standardization. In Hindi we say अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मानकीकरण संस्थान. So what this ISO does? ISO क्या करता है? The work of ISO is to, like, they basically make and publish, right? That's the big work standard, right? And they are published, like, it's a very, very old, we can say not-for-profit organization. There are so many different countries who are member of ISO. It's not that it is governed by like 1 or 2 countries. There are 197 countries who are member of ISO, and it may, like, increase or decrease. Okay, and you can check at the latest figure. You can check on the ISO.org website. So the best part about ISO is that they basically help in the standardization, right? And there are different popular standards which they have published. इन्होंने बहुत सारे popular standard publish किए हैं, and which is the most popular standard? QMS, yes, Quality Management System, and the standard name is ISO 9001/2015, which is the latest edition, 5th edition. And then they have published this Environmental Management System, and the standard is, which, like, we'll be covering this, like, important the clauses. And then recently they have launched one new standard. Which one? Earlier it was called OSHAS. पहले इसे कहते थे OSHAS, but now it is called, yes, क्या कहते हैं इसे? Occupational Health and Safety Management System, right? So if you look at, like, the series is ISO 45001/2018. So if you look at, like, the first one, like 9001, 14001, these are just identification number, right? Like, what are these series? This is just a series, or these are basically identification number, right? And if you look at this one, like the year, this is the latest year of update, right? Latest year of update. So when this is released. So basically, if you look at, like, these standards are international standards. So what does it mean when we say international standards? क्या मतलब हुआ इसका? That these standards will be applicable throughout the world. So irrespective you work in any country, the standard requirement will remain same. Of course, the implementation part and the formats may vary a bit, वो differ कर सकते हैं. But the major, if you look at these clause requirements, the standard requirement will remain throughout the world, and which is the best part, like, which is a good. Okay, to straight away coming to HR department, and HR department, like, is a very wide department and a respected department, and they have many work to do, ranging from, like, we say, hire to retire, right? When I start even before a person is hired, in terms of sourcing, in like looking at the right candidate, from the interviews to the recruitment to the training and motivation, employee motivation, and then also at the time of exit, they have lot of role to play. काफी role and important role play करते हैं. But most of the time, like there's a bit confusion, like what are those requirements which need to be audited when it comes to the environment, health, and safety management system. Okay, so one thing like we'll be covering is like when we say here, like here you look at like we say EHS. What does EHS means? EHS जब हम कहते हैं, it means it's a combination of both, right? Environmental, health, and safety management system. Like some companies, they may also say this as EOHS, which is same as EHS. So like environmental, what they will say, like environmental, occupational health and safety management system. Occupational is just related to say occupation, आपके कार्य से संबंधित. So don't get confused, right? So when we say like QMS, जब हम QMS कहते हैं, it means quality management system, which is गुणवत्ता प्रबंधन प्रणाली. When we say EMS, it is environmental management system, that is 14001. When we say earlier we used to say OSHAS, OHSAS, Occupational Health and Safety Assessment Series, but nowadays we say this as OHSMS, which is the language which is now used. But you can say OSHAS. OSHAS is not bad, but the new word which is OHSMS, Occupational Health and Safety Management System, right? Some people also write OH and like they also write this, but it's okay, you can write OHSMS. But when we say EHS, and when you say either or, it's same thing, or we say EUHS. Nowadays, some people say EHS, some people say UHS. It's same, one of the same thing. So when we say EHS or EUHS, it means both the standard. And if you look at like 90% of companies, when they go for this particular standard, they implement or both the standard, because there are a lot of requirement which is common, right? Because both side requirement okay hai, common hai. For that reason, like it is always recommended ki when you go for audit, even like when we make check sheet, so we have a common check sheet for 14001 and 45001, and I will also like share that with you as well. Okay, now coming to this most important topic, like what clauses are applicable, right, to the for the HR department. So this is like today's topic and very important topic. Although like when we say human resource, by default there are certain activities, for example legal requirements, or even like related to some points related to safety, we can include in this particular department, right? Okay, so let's try to understand what are the clauses applicabilities. That is our first section, कि क्या क्या clause हैं जो HR department के लिए applicable हैं, and let's look at this. And what we'll try to do, like we'll look at the clauses, right, and I'll explain a bit about them, and then I'll also clear your doubt. Okay, so I'm so excited, so let's get into this. So if you look at, there are total how many clauses? Like there are 10 number clauses. There are 10 number clauses, and these are the 10 number like major clauses, right? And those who are like member at sub-mastery and the alternate membership, they are aware about those 10 clauses. They have undergone these courses. So 10 clauses basically are these, easy to remember, SNT, CLIPS, OPI, right? So it's easy way to remember these 10 clauses. So these are like scope, yeah, normative reference, terms and definition. These three are what? These three are, if you look at, like are the non-auditable clause. When we say SNT, these are just to make the context, and these are, there is no shall requirement. These are non-auditable clause. Actual your will start, actual audit will start from basically, if you look at actual audit will start from the context of the organization. So if you look at like SNT, then actual the audit or the actual auditable clause, first three are non-auditable clause. Actual auditable clause is from the clause number 4. SNT, CLIPS. What is CLIPS? Context of the organization. Context of the organization, right? We'll discuss about this. And then CLIPS, L stands for leadership, P stands for planning, and then S stands for support, right? And then we have our clause number OPI, do the operation, carry out the activity. Then we have this operation, and then PI. What is PI stands for? Performance, evolution, and improvement, right? So like if you look at like these are the 10 clauses which is there, which is common in both the standard. ये 10 clause हैं जो दोनों में common है, दोनों जगह हैं. It is there in 4.1 and it is also there in 45001, right? But the audible clause will be from clause number clips and OPI. That means from this particularly SNT is non-audible clause, and the 4567 and which is clips, easy to remember, and then OPI, operation, performance, evaluation, and improvement, right? And then there are sub clauses like which will be applicable for the human resource department. So what I'll do, right? I will look at the major clauses and I will try to explain the requirements, and I will also take up your questions in between also, so that if there is any clarity required, then you get that clarity, right? Okay, chale, let's get started and let's understand. So in the clause number 4, right, which is for both, like it is for both like ISO 14001, and it is also applicable for ISO 45001. So when it comes to this, like the both of the clauses, like for this particular, in the context of organization, in clause number 4.1, what is that? If anyone would like to also write in the chat, you can also write in the chat. Like I also have a like backend PDF. Okay. So in what is clause number 4.1? If you look at clause number 4.1 is about understanding the organization and its context, right? So let me write that. Understanding 4.1, understanding the organization and its context. Now, what do you understanding the organization and its context, right? What do you mean by that? So is this clause applicable? The answer is like, we are not going to like, because this is a short session, this is an awareness session, and we'll be specifically focusing on the HR clauses. So I will like give you an overview, and I'll straight away tell you that which clause is applicable and what is that we need to do. And then I'll also tell you that I'll also show the check sheet also, right? So we'll look at like what is the requirement of this particular clause and how this clause is applicable, or is this clause not applicable. So I'll just talk about those clauses which are applicable. Okay. So number 1, like if this clause is applicable, understanding the organization context. So it means that what you need to do for this is applicable for all the department, and it is applicable to HR as well. It's every department के लिए applicable है. So what is that which you need to do? Basically here you identified the issues or the gaps, right? And which is basically we see that you identify what are your internal issues and what are your external issues. So that is what you need to identify. यहाँ पे आपको क्या आइडेंटिफाई करना पड़ता है? What are your internal issues? What are your external issues? Now, what is happening now is this. Listen carefully. Very, very important. This particular clause talks about that you need to identify what are the gaps with respect to an organization, and that is what you need to focus upon. Think about this. If you want to go from point A to point B, you want to become, let's say, HR manager. You want to become the the HR head, or you want to become plant head. You have this goal, right? And you are at this level, and you want to go from point A to point B. आपको point A to point B जाना. There must be some gaps. There must be some issues. There must be some skill gap, right? And if you identify those, and if you work upon those, if you continuously like monitor those, what will happen after 1 year, 2 years? Of course, like those gaps will, if there's a continuity, if there's accountability, if there's a support system in place, there's expectation that those gaps will not remain gaps. Those weak area will not remain weak area. You understand? In the similar way, you need to identify this. What are the gaps with respect to health and safety, environment in your organization, right? So this is very, very important. Earlier, people used to identify this at organization level. Yes. The correct way is to identify this at the departmental level, and then as you identify this in the departmental level, you can then combine and make it a organization level, right? Okay. So just so that you think about this clause, now what do you need to write in the chat, because I want this to be an interactive session, not a one-sided session, right? So I will request you think about what are the gaps, especially internal issues or I'm not talking about external, I'm talking about within the company with respect to like safety or training or anything like that. What are those? Like, even if you're from non-HR department, you can also write in your own department, right? So can you write few of the gaps which you think which can be there in your organization? It can be anything, but it should be related to systems. I give you a hint right now. Please write in the chat. What do you think are the internal gaps in your organization with respect to your environment, health, and safety management system? Very good, Ullas. People are not awareness about safety. Yes, you are right. Okay, now I'm opening this to everyone. Yes, now you can write. Awareness about policy. Okay, very good. Ramesh, air pollution. Okay, yes, management of pollution, use of safety, PPs. Very good, excellent. Yes, yes. Other members should also write. What are the gaps you think with respect to environment, health, and safety? Okay, yes, you can write that, Rajesh. Okay. Attrition. Okay, fine. Use of PPs, yes. PPs awareness, very good, Jashankar. Safety equipments. Health management system of employee, yes, okay. Hazard identification, yes. Hazard identification is weak. People are not aware about that. Very good, excellent. So you got an idea, right? So what is that which you need to do? What is the question which you need to ask from the human resource department or the human resource people? What they need to do? Yes, Bhavna, very right. Identification of HIRA, hazard identification. So what do you need to do? Yes, Mohammed, very good. So what you need to do is this, you need to ask question around like, what is your method of identification of internal issues? And not only identification of internal issues, but what exactly you will look at, like what are the documentation requirements which you can look at, what documents like you can look at, what documentation which you can look at with respect to this particular clause, you can look at what are the internal issues, if they have identified, are there any action plan, what are they monitoring, what is the present monitoring and present status, right? You can look at that. Let's say they might have taken some issues with respect to what you have identified, uh, awareness about PPs, awareness about safety is less. So like, it's okay. They can, it's like, what this is the intention of this particular clause. Like you can look at not just the issues, but you should also look at like, what is the action plan which they have taken? And of course, like this can be a cross-functional team approach. Yes, Satish, absolutely. Aspect and impact requirements. Yeah, Bhoop Singh, you can also write that. Yes. So you understand what will happen? What's the advantage of this clause? Like if you identify the gaps, the real thing is this: if you work on these gaps, there's expectation after 1 year, 2 years, the gaps will not remain gap, right? At least it is expected that you should get the some good outcome. Okay, so clause number 4.1, what is that? You will look at internal issues, action plan, monitoring and present status. That is what you will look at the clause number 4.1. Okay, so let's go to the next clause, which is what? Like understanding the needs and expectations of the interested party. So what exactly you will look at in the clause number 4.2? So if you look at what is clause number 4.2, I'll look at, see, like understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Now let me write that. Understanding the needs and expectations. Now, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by workers? Like it's basically, if you see this worker is added, workers like they have added from the ISO 45001 context, okay, and workers and other interested parties. This worker word is added. Okay, what do you mean by workers? Like by the way, when we talk about worker, what do you mean by that? Worker का मतलब क्या है? Worker. So if you look at like when we talk about worker, it does not necessarily means uh, blue collar jobs for those people who are doing. Any person who is working under organization control is called worker. Yes, and they have given this definition of worker. If you look at in the ISO 45001, no, not necessarily, Prabhu. It's not those people who are working on machine. Any person who is working under organization control is called a worker. You can categorize worker into two categories. One is like managerial workers, like you and me, and then non-managerial worker, those who work by hand. Yes, any direct, indirect person. So all these are categorized as worker. But yes, although like they are focusing more on the non-managerial workers, because of course you know that these people need to be trained, a blue collar people need to be trained, but workers include both managerial and non-managerial. Even MD is a paid MD is also worker, right? CEO is also worker. Right? Okay, so what is that you will see? What documentation you will see in this particular when it comes to this? Like, what is that you will see? So in that particular, like, of course, there are so many interested parties, those who have direct or indirect relationship with the company product and services. There are so many interested parties. So to whom, like, what industry parties like you think that HR will be responsible? HR will be like responsible for taking feedback, industry party feedback. You need to look at industry how they have taken the feedback. Like which industry party feedback? Like feedback from employees. So you will look at what employee satisfaction survey. Like you can also look at like they might have feedback from the neighbors. Like so this is what also you can see, or the even if you have like your company is in village, you might need this feedback from villagers. It's not need not necessarily you need not like a signed copy or something like that, but yes, from the employees and neighbor it is expected. From the villagers, like you can have some minutes of meeting, but there should be some evidence, right? And to whom like what are the other industry parties like? If you look at HR is responsible for what industry parties? What are those industry parties for which HR is responsible? HR किस industry party के लिए responsible होता है? Not for customer. No, HR is not responsible for customer. Generally, yeah, they are responsible for employees. Number one, right? So they should have some feedback mechanism. And what document evidence they can show, or what document evidence you need to check is the employee satisfaction survey, right? And what is that which they have done, or not only this, they can look at like, for example, the better will be, you can write, are there any minutes of meeting, right? Some discussion, right? Is there, example, with villagers need not to sign, and then what is the action plan? What is the monitoring, right? Action plan status you will see, because this is very, very important, right? So what you will look at in this particular clause requirements, what is the mechanism of taking feedback, right? And is it written, is it verbal? Like for example, is like, let me ask you, is it mandatory that human resource people should take a written feedback from the government? No, it is not required, right? Because if you look at government requirement, legal requirement, factory act, and all these are like very, very clear, right? So yeah, you can add suppliers and all those, but I'm talking about Rajesh, human resource. Yes, you can add contractors also. You can add the suppliers, like which is related to vendors, which is related to HR. For example, it could be contractors, it could be labor contractors, right? Yes, you are right. We can add with respect to them. Like it can be other contractors like food contractors and extra. Like you can add those contractors as well. A transporter, right? So this is expected, right? To make sure that uh, what is the feedback mechanism, right? And it can be wherever possible. You see that is there any evidence? आपको ये देखना है कि क्या कोई evidence है. So this is very, very important, right? Okay. Communication feedback can be electronic media. Yes. So you need to look at what question you need to ask. You need to see what is the mechanism of interested party feedback, how they take that feedback, what are the evidence of that, and not only what feedback they have taken, but what improvement they have done. Generally, what happened, like sometimes people deploy a third party. For example, there is a company like who employed Gallup. Gallup is a very good international firm which takes the employee feedback, right? So they've taken those feedback, but they haven't done anything on that. Like feedback to liya, but उसपे कुछ काम नहीं किया. Do you think that can be a non-conformity? Yeah, they have taken the feedback of employee survey, they have compiled the feedback, but they have not taken any action. There is no discussion on that, there is no action on that. Do you think it can be non-conformity? The answer is yes, this could be non-conformity. So the idea is, see, like it is very, very important, whatever like you do, there has to be PDCA, plan, do, check and act. So that cycle need to be completed, right? Okay, do you understand? Okay, so let's go to the next clause requirement, like clause number, now look at 4.3. Clause number 4.3 is determining the scope of occupational health and safety management system. Generally, like HR people are not very much involved. And then clause number 4.4 is occupational health and safety management system. Again, it is like they are involved, but it's more like a MR work, management representative, or these people take care of that, right? So now let's talk about the next clause for which HR is responsible. What is the next clause for which HR will be responsible? So let me go to that. The next clause for which the HR will be responsible is your now. Please see L, leadership. What is leadership? The next clause is leadership and commitment. So of course, like this clause will be more related to leadership 5.1. You can also write it, but 5.2 is something which they will be responsible, which is policy, right? So policy, when it comes to policy, like what documentation you can see, if the policy is available, right? So some companies HR is responsible, some companies the HR is, the EHS professionals or MR management representative, they are responsible. So what you will look at, like, are there any like environmental policy? Are there any environmental? You can also combine that. You can make it separately. You can environmental and occupational health and safety policy. So you look at like if this occupational health and safety policy is available or not. You can also look at that if how these are like communicated. What's the method of communication, right? Okay, how they're communicated. It can be displayed. It can be in a morning meeting. It can be displayed on website. So there are various ways by which this can be done. So like it's a common clause. Sometimes it is shared. This joint responsibility of HR and the system people who take care of that, right? Okay. Next, 5.3, like what is 5.3? 5.3 is organization roles, responsibilities, and authorities, right? So yes, this is a organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities. Do you think what is that you will look at? What is that you will look at in this particular requirement? Like, yes, this is very important. So what do you need to do? You look at, are there any org chart, organization chart is available, right? You will look at this organization chart is available. Not only you will look at organization chart, you will look at like how they have defined the roles and responsibilities. You will look at this, you can look at this competence matrix in this particular clause, or what are the roles and responsibilities? Are they defined or not, right? And especially most important, they might have made the general like basic roles and responsibilities, but what is expected is this when it comes to this particular clause requirement. What is expected is this, right? They should define like specific responsibility. For example, generally we see that they don't write the competence of HIRA, knowledge of HR identification, risk assessment. They don't write the aspect and impact knowledge or incident investigation knowledge. So what is that which you need to look at? Like number one, are these roles and responsibilities defined? And the best part, like, is how you can know that whether there's a gap or not. An easy way to find is that if see the org chart, see the organization chart dekho, and look at that if the roles and responsibilities are defined for the each and every individual with respect to the organization chart. So that's the best method. Like you look at in the organization chart, there are certain responsibilities, there are certain designations which they have mentioned, and you look at that against that if the roles and responsibilities and authorities are defined or not, right? And see that if these kind of things like words, for example, knowledge and competence, or the implementation of the aspect impact study, ensuring the proper investigation of the incident investigation, knowledge about the hazard identification and the implementation of the action plan, identification of environment and occupational health and safety management program and improvements. So make sure that these kind of words or the not only written, but people should be clear about that, right? So this is very, very important when you look at this particular clause, okay? 5.3. Okay, most important, like this is newly added. It was not there in the previously. So which one is newly added? 5.4 is only with respect to, it is only given in the ISO 45001 to 18 only. It's not given in the, it's not given in the, this is a new requirement. It's only given in the 5.4, which is basically consultation and participation of workers. Yes, so this is a new requirement which has been added, which is basically your consultation and participation of workers. What does it say? So it says that, right, you need to make sure that the workers need to be included, right? Now, if you understand, like who are the first like people, set of people who get impacted because of the safety issues, and who are the first respondent? Generally, first respondent कौन होते हैं? Shop floor people. You understand? Shop floor people, operator. Yes, yes. So these are the first हैंड ऑफ पीपल, नॉन मैनेजर वर्कर. सो यू अंडरस्टैंड, पहले सबसे पहले कौन इम्पैक्ट होता है, और फर्स्ट एंड रिस्पोंडेंट कौन होता है, इम्पैक्टेड कौन होता है, एंड हु कैन कंटेन दैट, और कंटेन कौन कर सकता है उसको. यस मनोज त्यागी जी, बिल्कुल बढ़िया. And for that reason, they were like widely neglected in the previous edition, although there were some talk about that. But now in this 45001 2018, they have specifically mentioned that you need to make sure that these people should be aware about the worker. Of course, it's talking about like both the managerial and non-managerial, but there is more focus like on the non-managerial worker. So what do you need to see? What do you need to see? You need to see what is the, what are the, the method of engagement, how do they engage, are there any cross functional team in which workers are also nominated, or workers are also participating. You need to see, like, look at like multiple like agendas of meetings. It could be like canteen committees, safety committees, right? You need to look at the different committees, right? And you need to look at like what are the uh, are they participating or not, and how they are engaged, okay? And what are the minutes of meeting, and not only minutes of meeting, like are there any action plan, are there any monitoring, are there any closing status, right? So this is very, very important, right? You need to look at what is the mechanism, what questions you will ask, like what is your mechanism of consultation and participation of worker, what are the timelines, how do you make sure that their inputs are taken, right? And what in the meetings are these workers are participating or not. Yes, you can write that safety committee meetings and canteen committees and various other committees, like you can see and look if they are participating or not. Yes, you can look at training and records also. Yes, you can also look at that, वो भी आप देख सकते हैं, but this is a major requirement. Okay, so if you look at like we have pretty much covered like let me repeat in the clause number 4.1, understanding the organization and context. You will look at what are the issues, especially internal issues, right? Where they have they identified, because external issues generally management is responsible. And then in the 4.2, you will look at need and expectation. You will see what is the mechanism, and this is what the feedback mechanism and record. You will look at that, right? What is that? Okay. In the 5.2, you look at if the policies are made, or what is the method of communication. 5.3, you will look at if the organization chart and competency matrix, roles and responsibilities are available along with authorities. 5.4, you will see that what is the method of engagement, and if the cross-functional team, if the committees are made, and especially in the committees, the operators are participating or not, right? So now what I'll do, like I'll take 2-3 minutes break for questions, so that if you have any question until now, अभी तक आपके कोई question है, so please feel free to type in the chat, because I want this to be engaging session. So अभी हमने 4 और 5th clause देखा है. So in that 4 or 5, these are the particular clause which you will look when you will audit the HR department, right? Now, until now, if you have any question, you can type in chat. अभी तक जो हमने कवर किया, अगर आपका कोई क्वेश्चन है, कोई सवाल है, तो प्लीज लेट मी नो, आई विल बी हैप्पी टू आंसर दैट. या यू कैन टाइप इन चैट. 5.4 Boopsing is all about like consultation and participation. So as I told you, the idea about of like including this clause, it was not there in the OSHA's 18,001, 2007, 18,001, 2007, जो that was the previous standard, which was a British standard. It was not there. So why they have added this, or they have made this, like it was there, but it was not like made as a separate clause. Now this clause is given too much respect. Why? Because you understand that non-managerial workers are the first people who get impacted, right? For that reason, they have made this mandatory, that you need to identify what is your method. You need to identify that. What is your method of that? What is your method of communication? What is your method of engagement? How do you make sure that they are participating in your EHS management system? So what evidence you need? You need committees. Are these people involved? In the CFTs, are these people involved? Minutes of meeting, their attendance, action plan, like are the action taken on their these discussions or not? So this is what you will look at, right? Yeah. Okay, Bhoop Singh. Rohit, if you make safety committees, then what will be rational of operating staff? Safety. See, the idea is Rohit is to make sure that down the line people are involved, they are trained, you make sure that you take their inputs, right? When it comes to like any safety issues or any identification of safety issues or identification of incidents or the incident investigation, management, identification of hazards, involve them. That's the whole idea. You understand? The whole idea is this. Good. Yes, Ullas, you can show that as an evidence against 5.4. You can look at this evidence when you audit this particular clause requirement. Bhavna, these clauses are pretty much common. Yes, you are right. Even in the hospitals, like if you talk about the downline people, nurses and staff people. So yes, you definitely need to involve them. You think about that. What could be the potential hazards which can be there? So of course, it is applicable even in the same clauses are applicable. Of course, the context might differ a bit, but the same clauses will be applicable everywhere. Yeah, Rajneesh, sorry. During the organization HR should work on feedback of employee, it will come in clause 4.2. See, feedback, if you look at, yes, you're right. Like understanding the need and expectation of industry parties. So that is basically how do you take feedback? Not only how do you take feedback, what is your, like, what do you do after feedback? So that is what you need to look at, because most of the time what happens, people take feedback, but they don't take any action. So as I told you, it's very important to complete that PDCA, plan, do, check, act, cycle. Yes, that will come under clause number 4.2. Poop Singh, is it mandatory? Of course, yes. How do you then evidence if you don't have any like evidence of meetings? So yes, it is definitely required. Safety members committee need to be trained or not? See, the idea is it's not mandatory, it's written anywhere, but yes, if those people are trained, let's say trained on what? Trained on standards, trained on as maybe firefighters, trained as first aiders, not everyone, but if they are trained, they will better understand. You understand? They will better, they'll be good in leadership, right? So yes, it is not mandatory, but it is recommended. You understand? Okay, Bhup Singh, right? Okay, great. So now what we'll do, thank you very much. So now what we'll do, we'll go to next clause requirement. So what is that you need to audit? So until now we have covered these 4 and 5. Now what we'll do, we'll move to the next clause, which is your 6. What is 6? Clips. P, planning. So in the planning, which clause? Like action to address risk and opportunity 6.1. So yes, if you look at the 6.1, which is your action to address risk and opportunities, action to address risk and opportunities. So there are like sub clauses which is there. Opportunities. So if you look at there are like sub clauses which is basically there in this particular clause requirement, right? What are those clauses which is there in this? So in this particular clause, like if you see, there are further like general requirement and HIRA and the expected impact. Like generally, if you look at like 6.1.2 in this, that 6.1.2, there's a aspect impact, like, and then the like in the ISO 45000, there are hazard identification and risk assessment, right? Okay. So yes, so this is very important, right? ये सबसे ज़्यादा important है. Now, if you look at like what are the aspect? What do you mean by aspect? Activities which is interacting with the environment, and what are the impact? Like outcome, like air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution. All these are impact. And what is hazard? Source, situation, or act which can result into harm or hazard to the end user or the to human, right? It can be like slip, trip, fall, or any safety related accident. So basically, if you look at what is that you need to look at in this particular clause, like if human resource has identified has carried out this aspect impact study, or have they done this HIRA study or not, right? And what generally, like if you look at what is the like area you think they should be covering in aspect, impact and HIRA study? कौन से area cover होने चाहिए? What do you think? Which area they should cover? Okay, in the aspect impact study, which area they should cover? Aspect impact, any environmental related challenges, all area, yes. But area related to shop floor, yes. Very good. Transportation, employee transportation, yes. Gate and surrounding, yes, they'll be covering. Yeah, so if generally, like if you look at like each department will show its own area. Maintenance, yes. Oil storage, yes. Canteen waste, yes, absolutely. I think Bhupsing, you're right. Transportation. So what was that you will see? Like you will look at like the area related to what is the like in the canteen, canteen. What is that management system, right? Gate and surroundings. You will see related to that, right? Gate and your gate and around like surroundings. Like what is the mechanism? Like you will also see like in transportation, employee transportation. What is that mechanism? Right? You will look at like. How do they identify the aspect and impact, and in a similar way you will also see that the risk assessment hazard identification. Okay, one thing which I want to highlight, which many people are getting non-conformities and HR people are getting non-conformities, listen carefully. It is now mandatory that they need to include the HIRA or hazard identification risk assessment related to human safety and social human safety related to this social factor. Like what is the social factors? This is newly included. What is social factors? The social factor related, for example, it can be like motivation, right? Bullying, okay, and it could be like fatigue, uh, burnout. So these are like new requirement which was not there previously, because you know that most of the companies, like you see that now you must have heard about this, the cases of employee getting you know is stressed out, and because of that they killed the boss or they killed the people, and this most of the time you are hearing these stories, right? So what is happening that if employee is stressed out, if employee is burned out, if then that is also a hazard. Yes or no? अगर employee burn out है, stressed है, bullying हो रहा है, that is also a hazard, right? And this is what the ISO 45001, they have considered this, and they want that HR should identify this. And this is what, of course, like when I say HR, it doesn't mean HR, it also means management of your company should identify these social factors. You understand? And you need to look at what is the method of identification, like of the stress, or what is the method of yes, you can also add this Rajesh, you can add this posh requirement, sexual harassment, bullying, extra, all this thing can be added. Okay, now my question to you is that what is that you will not only see the mechanism, but you will also see the control. Like kya control hai? So what is that you can look at? Kya dekh sakte ho? You can look at what are the employee motivational activities. You can look at if the that standard related to how many hours the people should work in a factory, if that is followed or not. You can look at what is the grievance handling system, right? How the grievance is handled. Are there any mechanism? Are there any minutes of meeting? You understand? Or some companies nowadays, new age companies are also hiring some third party psychologists. And nowadays there are many companies which have done tie up with the many startup where they offer psychological help, right? And that all the data is kept secret. So it's also a new thing. And one of the companies I remember, like I was there in one of the training program, and I got to know that companies even call the psychologist 2 or 3 days in a month. You understand? 2 or 3 days in a month, they call that psychologist for the discussion. Yes, Boop Singh, you can add this. Okay, so you understand that they need to identify like what could be hazard. Okay, related to for example, let's talk about transportation. Let's say it's a company given transportation. Okay, can you identify few hazards if it's a company given transportation, that will be included. Can you identify few hazards? Yeah. Driver rash driving. Yes, you are right. Absolutely. Driver is rash driving, or driver is drunk. Yes, accident. Of course, that's the outcome. Yes, you are right. Absolutely. Yeah, poor maintenance of the vehicle, vehicle breakdown, over speeding. Very good. Excellent. These are what? These are hazards. What is the control mechanism? Yes, Prabhu, absolutely. So you need to look at not having right way. Yes, very good, excellent. You got the idea, right? So what do you need to see when you audit this particular department, or you look at like what is the method of identification of hazards and how these hazards are taken care, right? Okay, in the canteen, what could be very good, excellent, boopsing, absolutely. The health of the vehicle, fitness of the vehicle, fitness of the driver, and yes, all these things you can. In the similar way, canteen, you will see that how they have identified what hazard can be there. Okay, yes. What is the method of identification, right? Proper hygiene, proper cleanliness, safe water, right? Hygiene, yes, absolutely, yes. How this food waste is handled, that will come in environment. Absolutely, you got an idea. Very good, excellent, good. So this is what you will be looking when it comes to like clause number 6.1. Let's move to further requirement. 6.2. This is again important, and yes, this will also. If you look at like in 6.1, I will tell you that in the 6.1.3, there is one more requirement. So I'll just quickly tell you that. That is your determination of the legal requirement. What are the legal requirements? Like what are the legal requirements which are applicable? Determination of the legal requirements. Okay, and legal requirements and other requirements. Like other requirements could be given by the customers. It could be requirement given by the that particular can be in that particular industry. So you are need to identify what documentation you will check. What documentation you will check? You will check that how these legal method for identification of legal requirements. How do they identify? How do they identify? Now they can hire. They might have hired some consultant. They might have some companies have this hired legal services. Some companies have this subscription to magazines, or they also have this timeline where they say that we'll visit some particular website on regular basis. So what is the method of identification of new legal requirements? You need to look at like what is the legal register, what are the legal requirements, and what is their adherence mechanism? How do they adhere? Like you need to look at that. What is the adherence mechanism? And then you need to look if these requirements are not only identified but they are properly adhered or not. And if there's any delays, why there's a reason for delay? You need to look at that, right? So these are the like some of the documentation which you will look at when you come to that this particular requirement, like aspect, impact, and data study. Okay. Now coming to the next requirement, like very important, 6.2. What is that you will look at in the 6.2? 6.2 is all about your objectives related to your both and not only objectives but and planning to achieve them. Like of course there are sub clause also. Night. Okay. Now, what is that you will identify when it comes to objectives? Objectives are like some sort of smart kind of objective. What is smart? Specific, measurable, achievable, time bound, realistic, right? So what document you will see? What document you will see? You will see that in the HR, have they identified few key result area or key result area, or what are the objectives which they have taken? And they should be like measurable as far as possible, yes. And not only that, you will also see the action plan, right? What is the action plan they have taken to achieve those objectives? And what is the status? Like you will look at this. Can you give me few example of objectives? Can you give me one or two example of objective which HR should take? Okay, with respect to environment, what objective they can take? Okay, yeah, tree plantation, very good. What else? A human resource people can take with respect to environment. Yeah, compliance, legal compliance, yes. 100% legal compliance. Very good. Yes, 100% legal compliance. Very good. Excellent. Yes, you are right. Pollution control. Timely disposal of hazardous waste. Yes, Rugesh, very good. Reduction of paper uses. Yes, this is also they can take. Okay, now come to let us come to the 45001. 45001, which is your, yeah, Suraj, very good. Yes, in the 45001, in the health and safety, what measurable parameter they can take? Very simple, reduction in accidents or the incidents, you can say. Monitoring of near miss. How many near miss? Yes, okay. Zero accident. Yes, very good, excellent. Yes, yes, Prabhu, absolutely. They can look at this. Okay. So what documentation you will see? What are the documentations which they have taken? What are the like key result area which they have taken? What is the progress on that? And what progress they have made, and what is the action plan? So this is what they will see. Okay, 6.1, 6.2 is clear. Now let me come to the most important, which is your clause number now 7.1. Now coming to this support clips. Now what is this 7.1? 7.1 is about what? 7.1 is about resources. So what kind of resources? So 7.1 is about resources. What resources? It can be like man, machine, material, methods. Like you can look at like are there any list of resources which is available? It can be within the company, it can be outside the company. Okay, it can be list of transporters. Like this is simple, not, you might not go too much in depth, but this is like which is very important, right? This is what is competence, and this is the most important and very critical clause when it comes to 7.2. 7.2 is all about competence. So what is that you will look at in competence? Everything, lot many things. Oh my God, this is the biggest clause, right? What is that you will see in this? You will see starting from like what is the competence requirement? How they have identified these competence requirements? It can be like you can look at roles and responsibilities. What is the training need identification system? You will look at with respect to environment management system, with respect to, I say EHS, environmental health and safety management system, right? I'm talking about both. TNI. What is their training plan, right? And what is their training attendance mechanism, right? Training attendance sheet. What is their like training effectiveness after the training, right? What is their training effectiveness record? All that you will look at, and this is very important. And most of the time, इसमें gap क्या मिलता है? I'll tell you, like because I got opportunity to implement this EHS, environment, health, and safety in 100 of companies. So the gap generally is this. Most of the time, NC. What kind of NC people, HR people get, or HR people? What do you need to think about this? Like you need to make sure that health and safety related trainings are also planned. For example, maybe introductory training for EHS standard, maybe HIRA training, maybe knowledge of expect and impact, incident investigation, legal requirements, emergency preparedness. You understand? So these competence also need to be included. Do you understand? So which is very, very important. Make sure that these requirements are also addressed. Okay. Next is what? Awareness. Awareness for what? Awareness is, although it's a generic clause, so although documentation as such is not mandatory for the awareness, right? This awareness for what? Awareness for HIRA, awareness for aspect and impact, awareness for policies, right? So as such, like you can, there's no mandatory requirement, although, but you can interview, right? And you can just interview, and you can find out that people are aware about policies, people are aware about like aspect and impact, people are aware about the hazard, and people are aware that what they are doing, right? What is the work activity which they are doing? So this is like you can straight away identify. As such, there is no mandatory requirement, right? Yes. Okay. Now 7.4 is what? 7.4 communication. There are two type of communication. दो तरह के communication होते हैं. What are those communication? One is internal and one is external, right? What do you mean by internal communication and external communication? Internal communication within the company, external communication outside the company. So internal communication could be related to, like communication related to anything, like communication related to your environment, emergency preparedness, or maybe emergency preparedness. That's an internal communication. What is the example of external communication? What do you need to see? What documentation you need to see? What documentation you need to see? Are there any like communication matrix? Are there any communication matrix? Or it is defined that who will communicate what? You will see what are the external communication record. For example, are there any communication which they received from the government agency, which they received, what is the reply which they have given? Are there any summary for that? Because most of the time, like Communication could be from neighbor, communication from your legal authority. So you need to look at like what is the mechanism? What is the mechanism, right? In that. So this is what you will see. Okay. Yes, you can see, are there any government notifications or any legal notifications which they have received? You can also check that. What is the method of maintaining that external communication, right? This is what you will see. Very good, excellent, good. Okay, so let me repeat. And what is the 5.6.1? You will look at the evidence related to aspect impact and HIRA, especially the departments or the area which come under them. You need to make sure that those aspect impact HIRAs are made along with the linkage to the action plan. You need to look at the legal register and what is the method of identification of legal requirements. You need to see what are the objectives and how they are planning the action plan with respect what objectives they have taken, and it should be measurable. You need to look at like competence requirements, which is basically a big requirement, and generally people get non-confident in that, starting from training need identification to training effectiveness. You need to look at policy and communication mechanism, right? So we have covered from clause number 4, 5 to 7, like we have covered until 7. Now there are only 3 major clauses left. If you have any question until now, please let me know and type in the chat. I'll be happy to answer. Yes, Bhavna, you are right. Awareness can be increased by training. Yes. Difference between awareness and training. What is in training? We expect evidence. In awareness, as such, the evidence as such may not be required. Yeah, you are right. Now you can say like that, but awareness is more at the maybe morning meeting. If you are doing a morning meeting and you are communicating the issues or past day issues or past day challenges, it can be basically your it can come under awareness. Yeah, Prabhu Gonda. Okay, ensuring training effectiveness is a big chapter. There can be various ways. Let's say you have given someone training on safety. Let's assume you have given someone training on safety. You have given training to someone on safety. How do you ensure effectiveness? Number one, you can see that how many incident investigation they are involved, or you can look at like how many near miss or safety related issues they have identified or worked upon. So the best thing will be to make it measurable. So effectiveness तो बढ़िया तभी होगा जब measurable होगा, but most of the time it is not done. So basically what you look at, like have they followed the training, have they implemented some safety related kaizen, like that is what you should look at. Or at least ज़्यादातर क्या करते हैं, we see interview the HOD, head of a department will tell, there's a change in the behavior, he is now more active, and then he say, okay, training is good. But as far as possible, try to make it measurable. Yeah. How to check training effect? Sachin, it is difficult. If workers training effectiveness is a bit difficult, this is a very big issue in the industry. I understand what Sachin, your question is very good. It is generally very difficult. So generally, people, the way they do is interview, right? And by some companies take test papers, but I believe test paper is more like a immediate effectiveness. It's not a long-term effectiveness. But generally people do like that. But that's not the correct way. The best way will be how many, how much they are involved in the actual Kaizen, actual safety improvements. That should be the best way. Yeah, you are right. It's a difficult and lengthy process. Okay, Deepak, pre-employment health checkup, yearly checkup. You can put them, Deepak, in this particular 6.1 also, like risk under this, and 6.1.3 also, like if you have identified that health checkup need to be regularly, and let's say out of against the 6.1 also, actually you have identified that it's a risk. Some people who are operating in a powder coating or a paint shop, so there's a risk, right? Some people who is working in a coal mine, there's a risk, associated risk. So you identify what part of body can be impacted, and against that you identify what medical checkup need to be carried out on regular basis. So under 6.1.1 and 6.1.2 in the identification you can identify, and also you can identify this under the legal requirements, wherever there are legal requirement applicable, then it will come straight away in 6.1.3. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Shambhu. Some workers are unable to perform written test. Yeah, it's okay. I understand. Mohammed, it's a tricky thing. In that case, you can take interviews and what like feedback given by the supervisor, that can also be considered. Okay, Mohammed. Okay, great. So nice. So let's go to the next requirement, and then we'll be finishing. And then I'll also show you one check sheet and share those who stay till end. I will also share that with you. Okay. 7.5 is about the documentation. So yes, this is a generic clause like 7.5. When it comes to 7.5, it's about like documenting information. So it's a very generic clause. So all the documenting information will come. We have already discussed this in the respective clauses. So I'm not going to write anything in this. So let's come to this 8.1. What is 8.1? 8.1 is your operational planning and control, right? So if you look at like your operational planning and control, so yes, this will come, like it will be applicable. Yes, this clause will be definitely applicable. So what is that will come in this particular clause? There are sub clauses for that. One is like 8.1.1, which is general. So what you will see? You will see the documentation. What documentation you will see? You will see, are there any work instructions? What kind of work instructions? Work instructions, for example, loading and unloading instruction for maybe transportation, right? Work instruction for like maybe fitness, vehicle fitness, like any, what is that? Like work instruction for employee health, like employee health monitoring, how they are monitoring this. Like, so there can be number of work instruction for canteen, like canteen hygiene, like what is that? So there are a number of different like how is that, like multiple do's and don't, or work instructions, all that stuff, like if you look at, will come under this operational planning and control. Basically, like the idea is that what is that in this particular, like you have identified the risk, you have identified the what could be potential issues. Now, how do you control them? That will come under your operational control. This is nothing but your work instructions, and also the how do you eliminate them, right? And then in 8.1.1 and also like 8.1.3, which is eliminate. Now this is very new requirement, like which is newly included. It was not there earlier, and this is very important. Like, let me tell you what is that. Management of change. So this is a new requirement. It was not there previously, not highlighted, but this is a new requirement. Management of change. What do you mean by that? Management of change. Management of change means that, like, although this can be maintained in jointly with the safety officer also, but what is your, like if you are changing anything, think about this. Like if you are changing anything, it could be temporary change, it could be a permanent change, or let's say you have changed the you have built a one mezzanine. Okay, आप एक example, you have built a mezzanine, and that mezzanine is built, but the boundary wall is not created for that mezzanine. Do you think there's a risk? A mezzanine is built by HR or under the leadership of HR, but there is no boundary wall. Can there be a risk? Yes, someone can fall from that. You understand? So in the similar way, like whenever there is any change, it could be temporary, it could be permanent, and it's not that HR is only responsible. Initiator could be from any other department. Initiator कोई भी department का हो सकता है. But generally, it is expected that HR should keep summary of that, right? So what is that you need to do? You need to look at like what are the change management. You need to look at like what is this MOC method, who do that, what is the method of like approval, who give this approval of management of change, how these records are maintained. Okay, so this is what you need to look at when it comes to clause number 8.1.3. And this is like pretty much new requirements, and this is a requirement which is only applicable for ISO 45001.18. Other requirements, if you look at this is only applicable for 45001. All those other requirements which I am covering is applicable for both. दोनों के लिए applicable, right? Okay, 8.1.3, 8.1.4. What is this? 8.1.4 procurement. Like what is that they are procuring? क्या वो खरीद रहे हैं? that is what is that they need to look with which documentation they will check. Okay. In the procurement, what they will check? Let's say they hired some person for construction and then accident happened. They hired some transporter, accident happened, called some um, guy from the outside of the company and they were doing some work, accident happened. So what is that you need to look at? क्या देखना पड़ेगा in the procurement? What is their vendor selection method? Vendor selection criteria. How do they select that? Right? If they look at the competency of that vendor, if they had any vendor, you also need to look at what are the records with related to that, what are the assessments related to that, right? Yes. And you need to look at what is the vendor selection criteria. If the policies are what is the policy communication, right? Let's say you give them the safety policy communication to the vendors, like how they communicate, how the legal requirements are communicated, how the legal requirements are verified. You understand? So this is all they need to check. Yes, evaluation, how these evaluations are done. Mohammed, operation control procedure, nothing but the work instruction or the how certain things need to be controlled, right? So it's just basically a kind of procedure. So 8.1.4, you will look at this particular requirement, and most important, now this is emergency preparedness. What is the emergency preparedness? Preparedness and response, right? How do they, what is that documentation will check? So many documentation, right? क्या क्या documentation check करेंगे भाई साहब इसमें? First, you will look at like what is the list of emergency. Have they identified the list of emergency or not? Need not necessarily list of emergency, but have they identified that what are the type of emergency which are available? For example, think about this. If you are in that zone where there can be earthquake, so that can be emergency. If you are in zone where flood can happen, that can be emergency. Fire, that can be emergency. Okay. If you are living in that area where there can be a risk of terrorist attack or a animal attack in the forest, like your company is in forest, so there can be a evidence, there can be a emergency for animal attack. Or if you have canteen, let's say in that case, there can be a food poisoning. अगर कैंटीन है आपको तो क्या हो सकता है, फूड पॉइजनिंग हो सकती है. You understand? You need to identify what is emergency preparedness, what is emergency preparedness procedure. You need to identify that if the mock drills are carried out or not. This is very important, right? If the mock drills are carried out or not. What are the mock drill records? Mock drill तो carry out कर रहे हैं, but उसके records क्या हैं? What is the action plan for that? भाई mock drill किया, that's they have carried out the mock drill, but what are the records for that? What are the observation in the mock drill? आवाज नहीं सुनाई दी मोल्डिंग डिपार्टमेंट में, प्लेटिंग शॉप में, और emergency button was not working, people were not aware it's emergency, it took almost 10 15 20 minutes to come out and assemble in the assembly area. You can also look at physically also, like what is the assembly area, where is the assembly area, if assembly area is demarked or not, like who's the emergency controller, who is the safety controller, are there any list of like firefighters, all these things, right? Firefighter in the company, are there any first aiders, like list of first aiders in the company, are they aware about that? So like all of these things, like documentation, you can check in this particular clause. And by the way, this is a very big requirement and very important requirement when it comes to the emergency, right? Okay, so these are the major requirements, and then after that, then there's a requirement related to 9.1. Yes, medical mock drill. Yes, you can also frequency of mock drill. Absolutely, you're right, Deepak. You can identify that. If this, yes, you're right. You can identify this ERT emergency response team. If there's a committee or not, what is the CFT? Who are the CFT members, right? Yes, and of course you need to include the workers in this, right? Okay. Almost we have come to end of the program, and there are like 2 or 3 more clauses, and then I'll share the checklist with you. Okay, 9.1 is about the performance evaluation, and 911 is your performance evaluation, and in this your 911 is your general. Like what is that you will identify? For example, what is the, let's say, monitoring for what? Monitoring for noise. They can identify monitoring for the lux level in the organization. There's too much dark area, or the lighting is not sufficient in certain area, right? You can also identify that in the against the general clause. Wherever like some monitoring is involved, it may be like work environment monitoring, right? Of course, the maintenance people and all these people like also involved in earth fit testing and all that legal requirement monitoring. And here also like you can also medical fitness monitoring. Yes, you can also write the related to human health, like what is the health monitoring also, like you can also add this, maybe health checkup and all that also you can make this a part of this 9.1.1, right? General requirement you can add, okay? And then coming to next requirement, which is your 9.1.2 is related to your evaluation of compliance. Evaluation, what is this evaluation of compliance? So evaluation of compliance means, okay, 613 is identification. And here, like you will see, basically if the timely compliance is made or not, right? So the difference between 6.1.3 and 9.1.2 is this. 6.1.3 you identify. Here you ensure that this legal register compliance is there or not, right? If the returns, like there are so many returns generally related to hazardous waste, right? If those returns are filed timely or not, so you can just look at the legal register and you can look at that the timely returns are filed or not, right? So are there any like calendars which is there, legal calendar which they have, what is the adherence of that, okay, what is the monitoring of that, all these like you can find. When most of the companies you see, this is a big task and this is one of the big activity in which the human resource people are involved, and you can also look at that and identify that, right? And then yes, 9.2 internal audit, generally MR is responsible, so I'll not see HR is responsible for that, but yes, in 9.2 in the internal audit, if there is any like safety audits, although QMS audit, the system people are responsible. If you HR people are system people, of course, then you will also look at the audit plan, not only audit plan, but what is the audit result, what is the audit results, and what are the action plan, not only action plan, like what is the status, right? So you also look at that in the internal audit, the safety audits are made or not, or the safety audits are carried out on timely basis or not. And as I said that I'm not taking this system audit because that will come under the system people, right? Okay, then management review. Yes, only participation is required. That we'll see in the legal. We'll see in the leadership. And then last but not the least, second last is your 10.2. 10.2 is what? Your incident investigation, right? And what is incident? Incident and non-conformity and corrective action, right? So what is that you will see in this? Now, before it is called, are you aware that before the incident were called accident? Which is better word? Incident or accident? What is the difference between them? Accident and incident. Difference kya hai? Anyone can tell me in the chat. Now, which word is used? Accident word is used or incident word is used in the standard? अब कौन सा word use होता है? This incident word, if I see, this is specifically to ISO 45001. Yeah, the word which is used now is incident. Why? Incident is more like a near miss. The accident is घटना हो गई, चोट लग गई. Now the word which is used is not accident. Now the word which is used is incident. Why? Because incident, the injury may or may not happen. Absolutely, Deepak, you are right. In the when it comes to accident, generally we consider chot lagi injury. But in case of, yes, you are right, Durgesh Mishra. But in case of incident, it may or may not result into injury. Those also need to be captured. Okay. So for that reason, now which documentation you will see that what is the identification of how this like identification of incident, what is the incident investigation is carried out or not, right? You will look at this, what is the action plan for that, and how these are monitored, right? And then are there any accident which has happened, and then of course the if it does not repeat again, What is action plan, right? Last, not the least, is continual improvement. Continual. What is this continual improvement? What documentation you will see? What documentation you will see? Documentation you will see is the safety kaizen, right? Safety kaizens related to safety, environmental kaizens, safety environmental kaizens or improvements which they have done, right? Can be related to safety environmental improvements, kaizen, or it may be like there is something called management program, right? You can also consider management program in 6.2, वहाँ भी ले सकते हैं, and you can also take them in continual improvement. So it can come like what improvements they have done or what are the projects which they have taken. So that can be taken, right? Okay, so what is that you will look at in clause number 8, you will look at the work instructions, operation planning and control, basically your operational control procedure, okay, which you say OCP, operational control procedure is nothing but how do you make sure that whatever the action plan or the risk which you have identified, how do you make sure that those are sustained, right? And then management of change, how do you identify even like your change management related to what impact it could have on the safety of people. In the procurement, you look at how they consider the selection, what is the selection method, and if the policy is communicated or not, or even like a work permit system can also come under 8.1.3 also you can consider. Emergency preparedness, list of emergency, type of emergency, cross-functional team, emergency response team. Physically, you will see the assembly area and all that. And then performance evaluation is all about what are the work environment monitoring system related to their department, which is basically human health or the lux level, and the other legal requirements could be they may do DG, for example, DG test, okay, DG test on the regular basis, or maybe transformer test. Of course, sometime they do this with support from maintenance. Evaluation of compliance, legal requirement adherence of those requirement, timely submission and audits, and incident investigation, and the safety improvements. Okay. So if you look at like these are the requirements. Yes. Can we take it as a near miss? Yes, of course. Mani, what is required is to identify the near miss, make a list of those, and make sure that the investigation is carried out. Even like auditor you can look at. I'll give you one good example, and this is related to like HR audit was happening. HR audit, there was in one company the lead auditor, they were doing the audit of HR, and HR said no incidents, no accident. Okay. Now, what the auditor did, they looked at the first aid register, and there were like 1 or 2 first aid cases, or there were almost like no first aid cases. Okay. Now listen carefully. ध्यान से सुनना आप मेरी बात. Then the auditor looked at the record of the consumption and the buying of the Dettol, cotton, bandage, and they said there was a huge buying of the Dettol, bandage, and cotton. Now, what do you say? That company got non-conformity because they were not able to explain where that is being used. So you understand, there's a correlation also. You understand? There's a correlation. So, actually, एक और interesting, then I will end. One more interesting. One company was using, and these are real incidents. One company was using this too much bandage. One company was using too much bandage. The HR person said, he was very clever. HR person was, generally they are very clever and very smart. Okay. So the auditor said, oh, so many bandage, where it is being used. You have not written this in the first aid register. Then the HR person replied, see the smart answer. And this is a real story I am telling. The HR person said, sir, in our company, there are so many ladies who are working. And then, sir, in the assembly, they are working. And at home, sir, they also cook foods and do kitchen activities. And sir, what happened? You know, sir, haath kat jata, sir. Then they take bandage from the, sir, from our first aid box, sir. We don't deny them. इसे मना नहीं करते सर. तो सर यहाँ पे हमारी बैंडेज कंज्यूम हो रही है. The HR person was very smart, but the next time auditor ने NC नहीं दिया. They said, okay, put one column. एक column डाल दो. Source of incident, source of accident, source क्या था? Then HR said, हाँ sir, next time sir, yes sir, I will include. First aid में एक source डाल दूंगा. Source क्या है? Internal और external. ठीक है? So yes, so you need this. You can correlate. See, audit is all about like correlating and looking at data and then making sense out of that. It's very, very important. Separate safety teams. HR also has to maintain all. Of course, yes, it is very much expected that a safety team has to. Sometimes people combine that, but yes, it is expected that there has to be safety audit. Sometimes MR, management representative people, they take initiative. Vinod, but yes, it is expected. Good, excellent. Any questions, friends, you have? Okay. So what we have done right now, and let me share my screen with you. Today we have completed one requirement. So wherein we try to understand like what are the mandatory documentation requirements with respect to HR, and we have pretty much covered the clauses for the both ISO 14001 and ISO 45001 2018 requirements, and where the requirements of only 45001 was applicable, I like highlighted those requirements. Okay, and we also discussed what are the requirements and also looked at what are the documentation requirements. And then I would also like to show you quickly one EHS audit check sheet. Can you see this check sheet? Yeah. So in this check sheet, like this is one example check sheet, and we'll also share this in the YouTube and in the YouTube description. Like we'll add this link of this check sheet and link of this audit notes also, and I'll also share this with you. So here, like you can identify checkpoints, and these are like some of the checkpoints like near miss, about safety, about risk analysis. These are very detailed one, and what we have done is also mention the clauses which is applicable, and here you can write the objective evidence, and you can also classify them as major or minor, although it's not mandatory to classify major or minor. Major, which can result into a non-adherence of legal requirement or complete failure of system. Minor is more like a which may not result into a legal complication, or it's a partial failure of the system, right? And then you can write against that, then of course you need a separate audit NC action plan and all that. Okay, so and here like just to check that if the new requirements are included, for example, new requirement related to, I will just quickly check the consultation and participation. So if you see consultation, yes, this requirement is there, consultation and participation of worker. How do you make sure? And you can of course increase or change this question. So I've written OSHAs. So when we have written OSHAs, it only mean OHSMS, right? Yes, you can still use this word. This word is not banned. ये word ban नहीं हुआ है, but OHSMS is better word, but you can still use OSHAs also. Nothing bad in that. Occupational Health and Safety Assessment Series, like. Okay, and then like management of change, like this is a new requirement. Management of change. Let me see if this requirement. Yes, you see if this requirement is there. Management of change record travel, right? So yes, so you can refer this checklist and you can customize this checklist as per your requirement, as per your organizational requirement. You can increase, you can delete these points, and you can change that. Okay. Okay, so how many of you would like to get access of this check sheet right now? Okay, so what I'll do, right, as I promised, that I'll just share the access of this right now. You can make a copy of this, and let me do that. Okay, so in the chat, I'm sharing this checklist. Okay, so here is the this example checklist. I just shared in the chat. And how many of you would like to get notes also? Notes. So my notes भी आपको दे देता हूँ. Like this notes which we have discussed, this doc. So I'll just share the link.